So where do you think you're going in life without the two ingredients that power, the base power of everything? Negative and positive. It's hard to put your mind around the fact that you just can't stay positive and make it. And I've done a podcast about that before, but it pays to revisit because some of the most powerful people around you, around me, some of our most powerful leaders are people who know that a negative post and a positive post gives the right charge for movement, for productivity, for power. So let's talk about it. And in regards to you, on the Coach's Corner, stand by. They should teach this in elementary school, you know, that negative things tend to give us a perspective and positive things tend to give us a perspective, and the human brain and the mental capacity based on environmental exposure allows us to make conclusions and maybe perhaps be a bit more objective. It's the extremes that is killing us right now. The extremes of, well, I'm not going to do anything that's not positive. Well, of course. The extremes of, well, I'm going to get mine. I'm going to do what I got to do. You know, it's almost like in this 21st century, we lack a lot of personal character and code, so to speak, because it's like we have a backbone, but it don't never really show up until it's an emergency. And we go to either extreme because we don't have a backbone, we don't have character, we don't have a personal code, whether it be Greekish or whether it be biblical. You know, the last century, that has been the fight. You know, the elitism code of honor versus the biblical code of honor trying to fuse itself together. And that's where we have some of the greatest production of leadership, the greatest inventions. But all of a sudden, we have a plethora of folks whose backbone is jailed at best. You don't stand really for anything unless they feel it on Monday. If they feel it on Friday, then they'll stand for it on Friday. But where is the ethics and the code that you hold dear? And if you need to improve on your code, we get it. You know, if you're one of those elitists and you're competitive and you've got to win, but you're going to have to deal with the opposite, the times of humility, the times of commitment, the times of... And so if you're holding to that elitist code, that Greekish code, if you will, without going into a lot of history, you're gonna be okay, but you're gonna lack some power. And see, that's why in the last century, the two fusing, fighting to find some kind of middle place in our society over the decades. But now it's just well, I'm going to keep it positive. You know, Paul, for those that are Christians, Paul said, man, I glory in this. What a backbone. If you knew, just with me building SIB and television and radio networks, what I've had to endure and what I still am enduring, you would detest and you would question whether this dream would even be tangible. But Paul says, man, I glory in tribulations. I look best. That's backbone. That's someone that knows that negative has to work in their advantage. One time Paul said, he says, though I may be bound negative, the word of God is not bound positive. And of course, as you know, the rest of the story, Paul writes over 3/4 of the New Testament. And of course, you have others, Walt Disney and the founder of Quaker Oats. You have F.W. Woolworth. You have all of the great leaders. If you read their true stories, the one thing that you will come out from the story, the one conclusion, is that they have backbone. They have personal code. They have character. Or they might have practiced, heroism on the Greek side. They might have been a servant on the biblical side, or they might have struggled between the two, but at least their struggle was based on acquiring or having a life full of power. So the question is, where do you stand? Not how positive are you, but when do you look best? You always look best in the bad, the good, and the ugly. Catch you next time.